polymers and chemicals. We'll run through the deck and take questions at the end. If anyone has questions, you can also message on the group chat, and somebody from our team will respond. Thank you. Aruba, aage. So in terms of key highlights and where we stand, half of 2025, we are, in terms of top line, we are 9% higher versus last year, 38 billion versus around 30 billion last year, and primarily on the back of higher volumetric sales of PVC. However, profitability is down around 103%, 3.2 billion. Two major changes, we'll discuss these later in this presentation, also relate to lower core delta, which is the primary margin, higher gas prices, and also tax income that was taken last year, but we're not this year. LPS is a multiple of the profitability and is also 80% lower versus last year. Market cap 27 billion, 700 employees, and total asset base of 110 billion, which now includes the hydrogen peroxide and HTDC assets. Next. If I were to look at the business, I'm sure you're all aware that primarily Ingro Polymers contribution margin is 80% from the PVC business and 20% from the chloralkali and allied businesses broadly. And within the PVC business, the core delta, international prices, benchmark prices for PVC and ethylene drive your primary margin and our primary profitability metrics for us. If you look at the top graph, PVC South Asia pricing in the last year has remained primarily flat. We saw some uptick in May, June, July of 2024, but it eventually went down to the same 800 के आसपास का number in dollar per ton price. This year, we have seen prices trend even lower than last year, and they have gone below $700 per ton also. That's primarily what you see in terms of the gross profit, the decrease in our profitability, primarily different from there. Because a $100 move in core delta is not the same if ethylene prices go down versus if PVC prices go down, there's a bit of a multiplier effect. In terms of where we see PVC prices heading, prices were under pressure in the first half. We've seen an uptick in the late May, June months, but construction activity remains weak. The US housing has not picked up as had been anticipated this year, and rate cuts, we all know, did not materialize as expected and forecast. China also is sluggish. We're not seeing the recovery that was expected. Although what we have seen is that India continues to remain a bit of a demand center globally. South Asia, Southeast Asia, the seasonal weakness, the wati jati rehti, but currently PVC prices standard around $730 per ton. Primarily on the back of interest rates not going down as anticipated and the construction sector still remaining sluggish instead of growing in the US and China. Core delta averaged around $275 per ton in the last 6 months and had actually dropped to a low of around $240 per ton last when we met in April. It's picked up since then, primarily on the back of higher PVC prices and lower ethylene price. Marginally, ethylene prices we have seen have decreased more in June, July on the back of new supply coming on and plants coming back online after turnaround. So ethylene softened, PVC recovered to $725, $730 per ton. What we are seeing in terms of the future of core delta, we see it stable and slightly increasing upwards on the back of softer ethylene pricing. PVC will remain range bound. We don't see it going above, to $900, $1,000 per ton in this year at least. 2026 and beyond, we see a recovery, but 2025 will be range bound in the $700 to $800 per ton range, as for the last year. Domestic PVC demand की जो बात हुई थी, we have seen actually that domestically demand for PVC has remained solid. Our volumes have increased over the last first half 2024, and while our market share has gone down, so the market of PVC domestically has also remained firm and growing. One of the key drivers of our cost structures, other than core delta and our margins, core delta is a margin. One of the key drivers, other than core delta, is actually the gas cost. And this year, in March, we saw the application of a levy of 791 rupees per MMBTU on captive power plants, along with an increase in the gas price, base gas price for captive power to 3,500 rupees per MMBTU. So in July 2020, on July 23rd, 2025, we received a notification which reverted and notified the levy at 238 rupees per MMBTU, and effective July 2025. We are now waiting to find out if there is a retrospective application of this rupees 238 per MMBTU. So this is a sub judice matter also, and in different courts it is under discussion. So the process gas price was also increased on July 1st to 2,300 rupees per MMBTU, वो जो हर साल एक increase आता है, that's what it was, I think 150 रुपए per what we do anticipate is the availability of gas at competitive rates remains a challenge. And we are actively exploring, we've talked about this earlier in the AGM and earlier analyst briefings also, we're looking at alternate power options, talking to government ministries to see favorable outcomes, if any, for gas availability for industry. Next. In terms of the segment-wise performance, like I mentioned earlier, 80% of our top line and our margin comes from PVC business, 20% from chloralkali. By the time we get to PAT, however, most of the fixed cost and interest, lands and holding charges land on the PVC business. In total, a loss of 3.2 billion this half year versus 1.6 billion last year. इसमें like I said, core delta का impact शामिल है. Lower core delta versus last year, I think we are at around a core delta of 275 in the first half of this year. Spot core delta is higher, around 320 or something. Like in first half of this year, core delta was around 275 to $280 per ton. And last year, the same number in the first half was between 330 to $350 per ton. तो एक मेजर इम्पैक्ट तो core delta का ही है. इसके अलावा gas price increased to 3,500 as well as the levy have both had an impact on margins. And finally, the minimum tax credit first half 2024 में हमने लिया था, वो इस साल हमें नहीं है. In terms of production, production is as per last year. Primarily, we have produced less caustic soda because of a shutdown that we took earlier in this क्या कहते हैं quarter. VCM production has also been slightly lower post the shutdown that we took in. We took an extended shutdown in April of this year, May of 2025. Next. PVC update. So if you look at the bar chart on the left, you'll see that the market is growing from the first half of last year to this year. We've sold around 95 versus 115 tons versus last year 95 tons. And in the second quarter also, actually Q2 2025 has been one of our best ever. It has been our best ever quarter for volumetric sales, quarter two as it stands. So a big achievement for us. It shows that the market, the domestic demand is very much there. And it is not stagnant, it is gradually growing, as you can see from the green bars. And it's something to build on in terms of future profitability that we see and stabilization of business. In terms of where we see the improvement in domestic demands, that's primarily in the construction segment, driven by the improvement in policy rates. पिछले साल कोई 22% interest rates थी, अब 11% भी literally half तो हो ही गई है. उसके अलावा real estate sector has revived, and with the stabilization in inflation, in exchange rate, there is demand for pipes and fittings, cables, profiles, construction materials, as we see. Whatever our operational constraints in terms of shutdowns, startups might be, we have ensured that product is available as needed by our customers to ensure that the channel continues to remain full, and sales continue. With dealer-led activations, strategic customer interventions, we make sure the market is fully served as needed. We recorded 24% year-on-year increase in PVC sales volume, and that's primarily on the back of a market recovery versus first half of last year, and a push from Polymer sales team to retain the domestic share and grow it. Next. In terms of the chlor-alkali businesses, while caustic soda prices have been stable in the first half, their core sectors may demand be stable है, primarily textile से आती है. The domestic market is pretty stable. There is some new capacities expected in China and Southeast Asia, so downstream demand भी बढ़ेगी, and that's expected to help absorb this surplus in domestic in dollar pricing, global pricing for caustic. However, margin pressure is very much there on the caustic business. As I mentioned earlier, the caustic business is almost 80% power cost because वो electrolysis होता है, and captive power या power की price, grid price जो भी बढ़ती है, it has a direct impact on margins for caustic. Where we see it going, so the reduction in gas levy जो notify हुई जुलाई में, it should potentially help margins improve. We're waiting to hear how these are applicable from the SUI companies, and we domestically expect that there will be no major supply disruptions between the key players, Nimar, Ittihad, Sitara, Anglo Polymers. So market remains in balance and will continue that way. Anglo Polymers ka business remains focused. What we're looking at is cost discipline and value chain integration. So until the downturn ends, we're looking to safeguard our margins and maintain our revenue pricing streams. Next. In terms of the consolidated performance, so revenue increased 9% year on year compared to last year. If you can see the left graph, versus 18 billion in 2024, we did around 20 billion in revenue this year in the second quarter. Higher, like I said, higher PVC volumetric sales, and of course, yes, some impact of hydrogen peroxide sales also. We've sold around 3,000 tons of hydrogen peroxide in the first half, post the commissioning in February. On a PAT basis, primarily lower international prices, increase in short-term borrowing, gas prices, macroeconomic headwinds have had an adverse impact on our profitability. Next. Where do we see things going? So the projects have been successfully commissioned, both the HPO and HTDC projects, and operations have also stabilized. So the HPO plant successfully completed its test run in June 2025, and mashallah is now producing well and quality product. Safety remains our key commitment. Operational discipline and safety force systems are a key focus area across the site, and we continue to work on a process safety framework. In terms of where the PVC market is headed, we think it will remain oversupplied it was oversupplied in the first half, and while prices are inching upwards, as you saw in the graph, we think it will remain range bound between $700 to $800 per ton in this year, growing in the coming year. Domestically, we expect the commercial strategies to result in market growth and increase our market share somewhat. There was obviously duty reductions in the recent federal budget, and the domestic industry will bear the brunt of the regulatory decisions. Ethylene prices softened in Q2, and they're expected to offer some support to the declining core delta. In terms of caustic, volumes improved, supported by the textile sector. What we've also seen is export prices remain volatile. So our major focus in this first half has actually been on domestic sales export का इतना मौका मिला नहीं. I think we did 13 KT cargo in the first quarter, and that's it. And where do we see it going? So the margins are under pressure in the chlor-alkali business, but with the levy reduction, we expect more space and more profitability in the chlor-alkali business, which should help relieve stress on the business. Hydrogen peroxide commissioning completed, and commercial transition has been initiated in both the EFS and non-EFS segments. So we have trials happening, partnerships are progressing, and we remain committed to our plans for the HPO project. Where do we see gas going? The revised captive gas price material impacted production costs in Q2. You will probably seen it in terms of our financials for the second quarter. However, the recent notification has reduced the levy from 791 rupees per MMBTU to I think around 238 rupees per MMBTU. Yes, 238. And that should have a material impact on our costing and margins. And what we have done is we've accelerated the evaluation of third-party gas options for us as alternative fuels, power options that are not so reliant on gas or imported raw material or imported fuels, and energy efficiency projects to manage our long-term competitiveness. All of these come together. So gas is power cost is something that is very much front and center of our initiatives that we're looking at to control cash bleed. So I think we are done now, Aruba. I think we can take questions.
Yes, we can take questions now.
I can't see, Aruba, you'll have to see who is asking questions.
Please raise your hands if you want to ask any question.
So I would also like to request that any questions you have should be posted on the group chat or to the meeting hosts, not to me because I'm not looking at my chat window. So Asil Jalal, we can take your question, Maple Leaf.
Yes, this is Asil Jalal from Epcl Capital. My question is regarding the gas.
Asil, can you like speak a little clearly? आपकी आवाज थोड़ी होके आ रही है.
My question pertains to the recently announced gas levy. मैं थोड़ा सा framework उसको समझना चाह रहा था because according to our discussions with our sources in Ministry of Energy, they say कि ये 238 जो है ये मार्च की levy और अप्रैल मई जून की जो levies है वो subsequently गवर्नमेंट नोटिफाई करेगी. तो अब गोइंग फॉरवर्ड ये क्या मंथली बेसिस पे लेवी गवर्नमेंट डिसाइड करके आपको फीस के थ्रू नोटिफाई करेगी या क्या फ्रेमवर्क होगा? और ये 238 जो है ये जुलाई के लिए है या मार्च के लिए? बिकॉज हमें तो ये बताया गया है कि ये सिर्फ मार्च 25 की लेवी है जो कि थोड़े प्रोसीजरल डिले की वजह से लेट नोटिफाई की गई है.
तो आसिल, इसका जवाब ये है कि अगर आप वो लेवी पढ़ेंगे ना तो 238 रुपीज की जो लेवी का नोटिफिकेशन है ना वो सिर्फ कहता है जुलाई 23 और ये लेवी है. अलग से there is a letter which is directed to the SUI companies directing them to do the billing for the levy of March as notified in some June meeting. वहां पे कोई नंबर नहीं आ रहा जो सुई कंपनीज को इंस्ट्रक्शन है. लेकिन यस, हमारी भी यही इंफॉर्मेशन है कि मार्च में सुई कंपनीज को इंस्ट्रक्शन दिया है टू बिल captive power gas on 238 rupees per MMBTU. However, we have not seen any paperwork. We have actually not been billed for captive gas levy yet. So, which is why I think we have around a 1.4 billion rupee provision for the gas levy for March to June of 2025. And I think that's at it is at 791 rupees per MMBTU. When we have clarity, we will take that impact into account. Like as of right now, Asil, we do not have clarity के levy किस तरह लगनी है. लेकिन our conversations indicate the same thing as you कि monthly levy revise होगी और इसी रेंज में रहेगी. आफ्ताब, आपका सवाल.
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am. Ma'am, I have a question with respect to hydrogen peroxide plant as it's been commissioned now. It's been circulating on internet. I have read it on internet that its location is less competitive in terms of business development with respect to Doll plant or Staras plant. Some logistic issues are there. So do you expect that it will add the expected value in EPS which management has thought before commissioning it?
Aftab, so in terms of business development वगैरह, absolutely, the location is a great location. हमने एक export भी किया है cargo actually, मतलब Port Qasim से बेहतर location is hard to find because the export market is open for you. उसके अलावा the whole south market is available. So very much we remain committed to the business of hydrogen peroxide and we see value in it. ये है, we're starting out product quality. We have achieved that. We have gone to I believe, our full run per day has also been achieved. The test run was mashallah positive. So we do expect it to start showing dividends. Margins वो नहीं होंगे in 2023 जो margin होते थे जब $400-500 per ton के ये बिक रहा था, क्योंकि prices have come down in 2025. लेकिन it's a commodity product. We expect prices to go up and margins to build also. In terms of where we stand, we have around 15% market share, which is pretty good after, I think, मार्च में हमने कमीशन किया है, Feb 15th में, और हम खड़े हैं अगस्त में अभी. So it remains very much something that we are looking at. Heather 06452. जी
अस्सलाम वालेकुम एम आई ऑडिबल?
जी जी हेदर.
जी मेरा क्वेश्चन ये था कि जैसे अभी लेटेस्ट क्वार्टर में जो हमारी रिजल्ट रही वो बहुत थिन गैप रहा रेवेन्यू और कॉस्ट ऑफ गुड सेल में ना, तो
जी जी
इसमें ज़्यादातर जाहिर सी बात है इसमें गैस का इश्यू था। तो क्वेश्चन मेरा ये है कि जाहिर सी बात है तकरीबन 4-5 क्वार्टर्स में हम जो है लॉसेस बुक कर रहे हैं, तो इसमें रिन्यूएबल की तरफ क्यों शिफ्ट नहीं कर रहे हैं? कैप्टिव पावर प्लांट के बजाय ना उसके लिए रिन्यूएबल को एज ए सोर्स क्यों इस्तेमाल नहीं कर रहे हैं?
हेदर, गुड क्वेश्चन. हम एब्सोल्युटली ये देख रहे हैं और ये सवाल आई थिंक एजे में भी आया था और I think first quarter maybe, in fact, we have been discussing this question for the last year or so. Till the levy came into play, 791 rupees per MMBTU, Engro Polymer में, because we have a very sensitive plant और हमें reliability हमारी बहुत high requirement होती है for the VCM plant, for reliability and safety reasons. So it made a lot of sense for Engro Polymer to, even at LNG pricing, our power, captive power was competitive. Despite that, we are actively exploring for the last 6 months to a year different options and configurations to merge renewables into our business, along with other options, including coal, electric, gas engines. हर चीज एक्सप्लोर कर रही है हमारी बिजनेस डेवलपमेंट की टीम, एंड वी शुड हैव सॉल्यूशंस इन प्लेस सून.
अच्छा, इसका मैम कोई टाइम फ्रेम आप दे सकती हैं कि मतलब 1 साल या 2 साल कोई टाइम फ्रेम अगर आप देना चाहें तो?
I cannot give you a time frame, Aftab, but I can tell you that this is very much the top of agenda जिसे कहते हैं ना, in terms of some things to solve for the business. And it's not recent. ऐसा मतलब we've been evaluating for more than 6 months, actively evaluating different options. So we should have some news soon.
अच्छा, इसमें लास्ट मेरा क्वेश्चन है, जो रेवेन्यू और कॉस्ट ऑफ गुड सेल है इसमें जो गैप जो थिन होता जा रहा है, तो
जी.
दिसंबर 2025 तक आप इसमें गैप को कैसा देखती हैं?
So आफ्ताब, जो आपने फर्स्ट इस क्वार्टर एंड लास्ट क्वार्टर का कंपैरिजन देखेंगे ना, तो वन मेजर ड्राइवर ऑब्वियसली इज द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ द लेवी, जो कि अराउंड बिलियन, $1.25 बिलियन का इम्पैक्ट तो लेवी का है 3 महीने का. अगर 238 वर्सेस 791 देखें तो देयर बी अ मेजर इम्पैक्ट in the cost of goods sold because of just the levy rationalizing downwards from 791 to 238 rupees per MMBTU. उसके अलावा हमने सेकेंड क्वार्टर में एक टर्न अराउंड लिया था, एक्सटेंडेड टू मैनेज इन्वेंट्री, एंड प्रीपोन कर दिया था सितंबर लेटर इन द ईयर, जो हमारा शटडाउन होता है अर्लियर, उसकी वजह से कुछ कॉस्ट सेकंड क्वार्टर में गिरी है रिलेटेड टू मेंटेनेंस, जो आप ओवर द ईयर में नॉर्मलाइज हो जानी चाहिए इंशाल्लाह।
थैंक यू।
थैंक यू। अकील, एनबीपी फंड।
वालेकुम।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम अकील।
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई वांट टू फाइंड आउट कि आपने जो प्रोविजंस की अमाउंट जो बताई थी, जो लेवी की मद में जो 791 पर एमएमबीटी इंक्रीज है, वो 1.4 बिलियन की कही थी ना?
जी,
अच्छा, सेकेंडली ये है कि क्योंकि इस वक्त
अराउंड अराउंड मैंने बोला था,
ओके
एक डेढ़।
ओके ओके। अच्छा, सेकेंडली ये है कि कैप्टिव गैस प्राइसेस क्योंकि काफ़ी ज़्यादा इंक्रीज हो गई है, तो ग्रिड पे आप लोग शिफ्ट नहीं हो सकते क्या? कम से कम अपना जो पीवीसी का प्लांट है, या इवन इवन जो कास्टिक सोडा वाला प्लांट है, वो भी शिफ्ट हो सकते हैं। उससे ग्रिड की प्राइसेस काफ़ी कम हो गई है, और कराची इलेक्ट्रिक की तो काफ़ी कम है।
जी, Akhil, we actually are operate on island mode. We have no grid connectivity. So
ओके ओके
connecting through the grid is actually one of the major options that we are looking at along with renewable coal and others.
ओके 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 ओके। अच्छा, सेकंड क्वेश्चन ये है कि जैसे आपको पता होगा कि इतिहाद बायोमास पावर पे जा रहा है, नमीर और सितारा ने कोल पावर प्लांट लगा लिए हैं, तो आप लोगों का फिर कोल में कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं है पावर प्लांट में? इसलिए कि आप लोगों की कोल की एक्सपर्टीज भी ज़्यादा है, ख़ास तौर पे एंग्रो पावर जेन के रिलेटेड देखा जाए तो आपके लिए कुछ नहीं सूटेबल हो सकता कि आप कोल के पावर प्लांट में जाएं? जैसे कि अभी सितारा वाले ने कोई 12 बिलियन रुपीज़ का 50 मेगावाट का प्लांट लगाया है, तो आप लोगों को ऐसा ऑप्शन जिसके अंदर कॉस्ट कम हो जाए?
सो कोल को हम बहुत एक्टिवली एक्सप्लोर करते हैं, लेकिन हमारा और सितारा और इत्तेहाद में एक मेजर डिफरेंस जो है ना अकील, वो ये है कि हमारा, मैंने बीच में ही बोला था, 80% of our contribution margin is actually related to the PVC business, which is VCM, and 20% is caustic. अब because VCM is a very sensitive plant, तो उसमें जो हमें पावर प्लांट लगाने की जो रिलायबिलिटी और रिडंडेंसी चाहिए होती है ना, for to manage the PVC or VCM business is much higher than we would need for a caustic plant. क्योंकि caustic plant, for example, अगर down होता है for whatever reason, तो 6 घंटे में या आधे दिन में वापस अप हो सकता है। लेकिन VCM का प्लांट अगर डाउन होता है ना, तो उसको 6-7 दिन लग सकते हैं टू गेट इट बैक अप एंड रनिंग टू द सेम लेवल। इसलिए हमारे जो भी मेट्रिक्स होते हैं ना, वो हमेशा 1 to 1 कंपेयर नहीं हो सकते with the options that सितारा एंड इतिहाद के लिए और निमर के लिए that work. However, that being said, we are actively exploring coal also. हमारी cost per megawatt is much higher than it would be for them because of the need of reliability, enhanced reliability. But it's something that we are actively exploring even now. And
ओके
even
ओके
given that the world is moving away from coal, and eventually, there is wo that with the carbon tax ambit eventually expanding, this will impact coal plants also. Despite that, we are actively looking at it as an option.
ओके ओके। अच्छा, एक और क्वेश्चन है, व्हाट इज द एक्चुअल रेशियो इन टर्म ऑफ एमएमबीटीयू फॉर कैप्टिव एंड प्रोसेस गैस? मतलब आपका जो टोटल गैस यूटिलाइजेशन है, उसके अंदर में कैप्टिव के लिए हम क्या परसेंटेज रखें और प्रोसेस गैस के लिए क्या परसेंटेज रखें, ताकि हमारी कैलकुलेशन और बेहतर हो सके?
I think आप 80-20 कर सकते हो।
80 कैप्टिव ना?
हाँ,
ओके। और कास्टिक सोडा के वॉल्यूम्स आपने बताए नहीं सेकंड क्वार्टर में, अगर बता सके तो।
कॉस्टिक सोडा का क्या?
वॉल्यूम्स।
कॉस्टिक सोडा के वॉल्यूम मैं चेक करती हूँ, देयर एज पर लास्ट ईयर, नो मेजर डिफरेंस।
सही है।
We sell what we produce.
और आपने शायद प्रेजेंटेशन में मेंशन किया था कि डोमेस्टिकली आप पीवीसी की प्राइस इंक्रीज करना चाहते हैं, तो करंटली क्या है और क्या फोर्सी कर रहे हैं, कितनी इंक्रीज हो जाएगी? जैसे मुझे
नहीं, मैंने ये नहीं कहा था कि हम इंक्रीज करना चाहते, मैंने कहा था कि पीवीसी की प्राइस इंक्रीज और डिक्रीज होती है विद बेंचमार्क टू ग्लोबल प्राइसिंग, जो पिछले साल 1.5 साल से लार्जली फ्लैट रही है, अदर देन मई जून जुलाई, जब देयर वाज अ स्पाइक upwards, and what we are seeing is a slight gradual and gentle upward trend in PVC pricing. तो वो हम फॉलो करेंगे, मैंने इस कहा था। इसके बावजूद हमारी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है कि सेकेंड हाफ ऑफ 2025 में प्रॉब्ली फोकास्ट ये है कि पीवीसी प्राइसेस विल रिमेन रेंज बाउंड बिटवीन $700 and $800 पर टन। आजकल आई थिंक कोई 730 चल रही है। तो 700
ओके
800 के बीच में ये रहेगी. Probably near the end of 2025, early 26, we expect some more recovery. मतलब 900 1000 जो historic prices रही हैं उस तक जाते हुए.
देखिए, डोमेस्टिकली देखा जाए तो एलसीज ओपन होने में तकरीबन काफ़ी ज़्यादा डिफिकल्टीज हो रही हैं अभी जुलाई के अंदर में. तो पहले आप प्रीमियम एक चार्ज करते थे, तो वो अभी चार्ज कर रहे हैं, और करंटली प्राइजेस अगर पर बैग के बता सकें आप.
नहीं जी, हमारी बड़ी competitive pricing है. Based we are committed to the domestic PVC market, and we price very competitively to ensure that our customers receive inventory just in time and the benefits of having a local PVC manufacturer. And our prices are benchmarked to South Asia.
ओके. और मतलब पीवीसी की लोकल प्राइस क्या होगी पर बैग? और एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन है कि आपकी इनकम टैक्स एडवांस में काफ़ी ज़्यादा अमाउंट आ रही है इन ऑन एसेट साइड, तकरीबन 8 बिलियन के करीब पहुंच गई है. तो उसके बारे में मतलब कुछ बता सके.
The income tax recoverable has been growing. Last year was a loss year, but because of the tax turnover ratio, a lot more has been paid out in advance. So that's something we are looking at with the FBR authorities.
ओके, थैंक यू.
Thank you. AK?
Yeah, hello. So
Hello.
I'm an individual shareholder, and my questions will be related to a top view of the company, and I would like a similar format of an answer. So my first question is the new division of your business, the plant that you operated, that you installed a few months back. So in the next 2 years, what's your plan? What margin of your business will come from there in terms of percentages? And my second question is, from the last 2 years, I'm holding your stock, but all I see is that we put the blame on the international prices of these PVCs, uh, uh, whereas we see other players are operating, and you just mentioned that it's a commodity and the prices can go up and down. So rather than expecting the price to go up down, why don't we optimize on the leaks that we have and the cost burning? Mainly, I see the repeated question throughout this time and throughout the last year regarding gas and other issues. So why don't we optimize this? And if it's always tied to the international prices, why don't we switch to the profitable business that you showed in the chart? Yeah, thank you.
So if a number of questions. So if I were to take the first one, a commodity business will follow the commodity cycles internationally. And internationally also, whether it's Westlake, whether it's Formosa, whether it's the other PVC businesses which are working only in the resin market, you will see that profitability in the last 2-3 years has decreased majorly. And that is because everybody follows the same the margin curve. Ethylene comes from the same crackers. Some are vertically backward integrated, so they get ethylene cheaper, but PVC sale price will still be the same margins as it is globally. So nobody can price significantly higher than global prices. This is a very competitive business to be in. And it's not that we are blaming international market, but this is the way it works. 2021 international prices, which are at $800 per ton right now for PVC, were at $1,500 per ton. And the core delta, which is currently at around $350 per ton, was at $800 per ton. $900 per ton. So the boom cycles also come, and the trough also comes. We have been in the trough since 2023, late 23, and we see that prices are stabilizing, margins are stabilizing and moving upward. This is an industry which works on a global scale. Ethylene supply is global. It comes from different places, different crackers. PVC also, for example, there is a global oversupply, as I mentioned, in the PVC market, and it does impact the pricing globally. It's simple economics in terms of demand and supply, and that is where you see price softening and strengthening. So if there is an oversupply and a glut and there is no demand from the major demand centers globally, which is the US and China, there will be oversupply because new capacity is coming in for PVC, and that will result in softer pricing for PVC, which everybody has to follow effectively. In terms of the gas issue and the power issue, power is something which is very much top of management's focus, and we are looking for an option. You have to understand that it's not just a question of a small solution which can just fit in and be run, because we have to look at it from the perspective of a VCM plant, which, like I mentioned, is a very sensitive plant compared to, for example, our caustic plant, which can go down and go back up in half a day. The VCM plant, where it's a sensitive plant, it's a safety issue, it's something where we have to be very sure about the reliability of the power that is supplied to it. Regardless of that, we are very, very carefully evaluating many different options for power. Like I said, whether it's grid, whether it's coal, whether it's renewables, whether it's gas engines, everything is being evaluated again. Till last year, the levy not having been in place, the evaluation bar was against RLNG pricing, and captive power was still more a better option for agropolymers and for in terms of power production. With the levy, numbers have shifted somewhat, and we are evaluating again and should have some solutions in place. In terms of where the hydrogen peroxide business is going, at full capacity, we expect it to account for around 2 to 5% of the contribution margin. I think I've answered your queries. I think Hassan Javed.
Assalamu alaikum. So I have two quick questions. The first question being, we see declining oil prices obviously in the near term. So that is obviously going to give you a positive, outlook for ethylene prices as well. So I want to know, what is your outlook on the ethylene prices going forward, and at what level of primary margins can we actually expect the company, to reach at a break-even level? If you can answer this one, then I'll proceed to the second question. Thank you.
Yes, we do expect that with the power being oil prices trending downwards, so will ethylene prices, but not a drastic drop. So again, we expect them to remain range bound on the lower end of the spectrum. That's, I think, question one that you had. Question two was break even primary margin. Agar aap kahen to probably around $350, $360 per ton is your break-even margin on a normalized basis. Next question, aapka, Hassan.
My second question is, as you said earlier as well, that you are currently evaluating different options to mitigate your energy price risk as well. So my only question is, whatever the option that you guys will move forward with, how do you expect to finance that project? Because obviously we understand that you already have a significant amount of debt on your balance sheet. So does that not create an additional issue for you? You would ideally need some sort of a debt to equity ratio to finance that project. So can you please provide some guidance on that? That would be really helpful.
So obviously, Hassan, that is part of the evaluation and actually comes into the decision making also. Yeah, that is one option. Raising funds is another. PPA is another third option. Leasing is an option. We're looking at all of those options. And that actually plays into the tariff discussions in the financials that we look at in terms of evaluating which is the right fit model for agropolymers.
Okay, thank you so much. Best wishes to the management for the future.
Thank you. Okay, I think we are done. Any other questions, Aruba?
Oh, no, I think we're done.
Thank you very much for attending. Guys, I hope somebody has answered all the questions in the chat. So, thank you to everyone. Allah Hafiz.